what's up? Red Panda Anthem. Red Panda, what's good?
SoftBank reports record $23 billion quarterly loss. Is this a good time to invest in SoftBank, or should we leave it alone altogether? And can you explain what SoftBank is for people that might even not even know what that even means?
Yeah, SoftBank is an investor in the tech space. This goes to show that when you don't want to be patient and wait for a great price, when I was talking to Ish this weekend, he was like, all your money is made on the real estate side, and Matt said this too. When based on when you buy the property, at what price. Same for the stock. So the issue, and we've seen it with ARK and other funds, you can't just throw capital and acquire assets in at any price and hope that things are going to work out. They just bought too high. They had a great strategy, great thesis, but they brought at the wrong prices. And now that the market is falling apart, Evergrande is having issues. There's all this contagion level events that are happening across the world, and the macroeconomic environment is really terrible right now. They're bleeding. So the number one thing I want everyone here to remember, if you're an investor in a company and they're not getting in at a great price, what makes you think that your investment with them will go up? So if a company is worth $100 million and then they're making offers to buy in at the peak and they're deploying capital and burning through $2 billion in a quarter, like some company, I'm gonna be real, not the jacket time. They weren't even checking what the actual sales were. Some companies were doing 100 times sales in terms of valuation last year. This is 99 and 2000 all over again, but we have to realize that depressions and recessions are a part of a business economic cycle, because everything just always went up. There would be no time for people to go back to reassess, to go back to really good business principles and fundamentals. So yeah, keep your eye on it. SoftBank, Evergrande, and I'm going to give you homework right now. Please go look at the top 10 real estate developers in China and see how much trouble they're in. If you guys remember, I brought it up last year, and people like Evergrande's not going to go under. There is no mathematical formula that will tell you if you leverage 15x or 20x that you will not go under. You have to follow solid business principles. And I know it's not fun to talk about patience, risk mitigation, risk to reward, but if you're deploying 15 times the amount of capital that you actually have in your banking reserves, it usually never ends well.
Yeah, I mean, and your investments are in a specific sector, right? And so if it's only in tech, and you see what happens to the NASDAQ, it drops 32%. I mean, the quarter was only a 23 billion. Now I say only in just, but at one point they were down 50 billion. The companies that they were investing in were not profitable, right? They had startup company, like the branch that lost the most money is let me see, one sec, is the Vision Fund. So the Vision Fund is an arm of their investment strategy where it focuses on startup tech companies, which is great. And if it works, it's great. But on a downturn, when the entire sector takes a hit, you're going to take a big hit. And so if you're only basing it on their potential growth, like you said, that were inflated from 2021, obviously because interest rates were a lot lower. Once those interest rates start to go up, those profits are going to be cut very drastically.
Yes.
And that's what you're seeing right now. And so is it a good time to invest in them? Well, if you want to invest in companies that aren't making profit, and I'm not sure when is a good time, the strategy might need to be changed. Just from that standpoint, right? This is like we talk about, I took an L. No, you didn't take it. What are we going to learn from this? Right? $23 billion is a heavy hit.
It's a substantial hit.
It's a heavy hit on any company. So yeah, man. I mean that strategy, and I mean that goes for anybody, right? The average investor, right? And we talk about this too. Like, you don't want to have your entire portfolio in one sector.
Why not?
For this exact reason, right?
Warren Buffett says diversification is for people. What did he say?
Who don't know what they're doing, basically.
Yeah. So to play God's advocate, if diversification is for people that don't know what they're doing, why is it important to diversify?
Because most people don't listen and follow instruction. I'll say it. Ian, this is Representative Ian only, and the Red Panda Rebellion. This is not a reflection on Troy Rashad, Mike, Bam, Vince, Janet, Abdullah, right? Me. Most people won't listen. If I made you money, please put yes in chat.
Kindly.
Making money is so easy when you listen to people who do that craft for a living and then they give it away for free for you to profit. So, like, here's a noble idea. A company should make profit in order for the stock to go up and for it to remain valuable. And a key takeaway, if people have to launch massive campaigns and tell you that this white paper is like the best thing since the 10 Commandments, and you have to go on a massive press run to promote the product's not good. As Trap will say, good dope sells itself. I've never seen Tim Cook have an army of bots spam in YouTube comments saying you need to invest in Apple. We're not going to ask you to, subscribe to our WhatsApp. And shout out to those of you who was like following the fake Telegram. That's why I always leave voice notes. Like, we are back to basic business principles. A good company will have good word of mouth. You will have good margins. You'll treat your customers well. You'll get them a real result. If you're buying a coin that you never heard of, and I'm not bashing crypto, but if Michael Saylor went under owning 80% of that company and he stepped away, what do you think is happening in the rest of the market? And Michael can actually trade. You don't think they're not talking to Goldman and JP Morgan and Citadel? And shout out to all of them. Can't wait to partner. Coming soon. The rebellion has begun. A lot of these crypto are going to sell out. And then be careful on your information. Be very careful. A lot of this is just common sense, though.
The rebellion has begun. Okay. So let's talk about this. What are top 3 lessons that you guys learned or took away from InvestFest?
Who wants to go?
I'll start. I think I always listen when billionaires speak. I listen when everybody speaks, but I'm very, very attentive when billionaires speak. So
that was like a stunt right there.
No, it's reality.
I mean, how many people have conversations with billionaires?
No, I'm not having this conversation when they speak.
All right.
I don't have to have a conversation to hear somebody speak.
Got you.
So I didn't have a conversation with Dan Cathy, but I heard him speak. So when Dan Cathy, he was using a lot of analogies, and he was saying how orchestra, every person in the orchestra has to perform at a high level for the music to sound how it's supposed to sound. And he said, never dumb down the music based off of the talent of the orchestra. Get better talent in the orchestra to fit the composition of the music.
Mm-hmm.
That's extremely valuable, Jim, for entrepreneurs, business owners, just people in general.
Yep.
Another thing that I took away was Tyler Perry, when he told us about partnerships, working together. And he was like, the problem that most people have is they try to get too much too fast.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, there's nothing wrong with getting small pieces, because you're getting small pieces here. He's like 5, 10, whatever, just small pieces of different things, as opposed to just trying to get a large chunk of something up front,
Mm-hmm.
which could potentially ruin a relationship or ruin a deal. And I thought that was valuable, because he's somebody who has done probably the best job of maintaining his independence, but he understands even that there's still value in collaboration. So even when he was talking about, like, working with BT, and he's like, there's certain, you don't have to do every single thing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with partnerships, collaborations, small pieces here and there. And the way he kind of broke it down, it made a lot of sense to me. Even, him working with Hollywood studios, renting his studio lot. So that was something that was real big for me, as far as that collaborative effort, that collaborative piece that he said. And then also from Steve Harvey, what I got from him was that perception is not always reality, but you can't worry about that. You just got to keep going. And when we told the White House story, which we'll be putting that out soon, but people are very fickle, and people will love you today and they'll hate you tomorrow. But you can't worry about that. Like, you can't, worry about what people on the internet are talking about. You just got to stay focused on what you're doing. Because winners don't have time to talk about other people. Only losers talk about other people. So if you're winning, you just got to stay focused, keep the blinders on, move forward, and people will come back around. Even if they hate you today, they're gonna love you tomorrow. That's just how it works. And that happened to him a few times. The Miss Universe thing, the Donald Trump thing, and now he's back on top. So
Yeah.
you just got to stay the course. So those are three things that I took away from three different people.
Yeah, that incredible. So I'm gonna start. The first thing I wrote them down was the value of humility, and it was so random. I was walking out of backstage, actually going into the vendor marketplace, and I see this gentleman with this sky blue blazer on. He had like 4 bags in his hand, and I saw like one of the staff just randomly walking with him, and the young lady walked up to me and said, "Can you help this man? He's trying to find the speakers where the speakers are supposed to go." And I looked at her, and she had no idea who the gentleman was. And I looked and I said, "Mr. Kathy, I'll take it from here. I'll walk you where you need to go." And he looked at me and said, "Hey, how you doing? What's your name?" I'm like, "Troy." I'm like, "Pleasure to meet you." And he was like, "Oh, pleasure's all mine. Here's a card." He gave me a Chick-fil-A card. Dan Cathy is the former CEO of Chick-fil-A who passed it down. He had a conversation with Dave Shands, but he was just trying to find his way, right? And so I noticed the bags. He had about 4 bags, and I said, "Look, what are all these bags?" And he said, "I was just walking around the marketplace, and people just kept giving me things, so I kept taking it. I actually got a cool cigar." And in my mind, I'm like, "Wow, like." This guy, literally the wealthiest man in that room was Dan Cathy. Walked around unassuming. It felt like it was an episode of Undercover Boss. I'll be honest with you, because every time he walked, no one realized who he was. I mean, he had a badge on with his name on it, and people still didn't realize it was him. And I was just like, wow. Even with that, like the humility that he showed every time he met someone, it was so impressive. It was, "How are you doing? Nice to meet you. What do you do? What brought you here? Are you in?" Like, I watched him. I introduced him to Don Peoples, and I was in awe because they're having this billion-dollar conversation right in front of me. He wanted to know about the Affirmation Tower. Donahue Peoples wanted to hear about what he was doing in the west side of Atlanta, and I'm just sitting there like, this is what InvestFest is. Like, these type of conversations, putting people in positions and in rooms where these conversations could be facilitated. And even after that, he looked at me and said, "Thank you for showing me around. I appreciate it. Let's take some pictures." And I'm like, wow, like to have his level of success, but to also have his level of humility was incredible. So that was my first thing. The second one, and I kind of live by it. And I know he gets frustrated with me sometimes, but I look at the sky. I look at the sky, and Steve referenced it when he gave that reference of looking at the wall, and Tyler kind of gave it during his interview when he's like, "If I'm looking at the lights, I don't know what people are doing in the seats, so I got to focus on the lights." So like, anybody saying anything, like I always, and Ian, you know this, like you say something about me, you're not gonna hear a reply because I know what the focus is.
You mastered that.
I cannot be. I will not be. Like, not that I cannot be distracted. I will not be distracted. And so just having that laser focus on the bigger picture, the bigger vision, and not being distracted, not letting anybody take me off my path. And so to hear him confirm that, I was like, yeah. And sometimes it's not the easiest thing to do, but I know it's the right thing to do. I know it's the right
I'm learning. Trust me, I'm trying.
yeah. And like we go back and forth with that. Like, nah, some things need to be addressed right now because they need to be addressed. I'm like, nah, bro. Let's just. It don't matter. It don't matter. So we go back and forth. And the third thing was that impact has no boundaries. Like, impact has no boundaries. The amount of conversations that I heard from the people who were in attendance this weekend was incredible. And the stories came from all over. They came from all types of different professions. They came from all different backgrounds. But you just never know. You never know what one episode or one piece of information can do. I actually last night was talking to a gentleman. I told him I have to change my story now. I used to say that people were showing me like, hey, they made $100,000 in their brokerage account, and it was because of a piece of information. This gentleman last night said, "Troy, I started listening to Market Mondays in April of 2021. I have 7 figures in my brokerage account. But y'all, I can't pay y'all for what y'all done."
Yeah.
And so, like, you just never know where the message is going or where the impact is going to go. So that's why you just got to keep delivering. You just got to keep delivering. You gotta keep adding value, and kind of like what we're doing tonight is just continuously be consistent with that. Because you never know. You never know what one piece of information can do for somebody.
This that Red Panda Anthem. Ian, what's up? This that Red Panda Anthem. Red Panda, what's good? Red Panda Anthem. Whole clip going up. I know they can't stand it.